Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. I'm here because I want to improve my English. Do you want to improve your English? Well, if you do, we'll work together in improving our English language by learning new words and by expanding our vocabulary. The very first word that I want to talk about today is etymology. Etymology. It is a noun. It is a noun. Technically, I should put here simply N with a period. What is an etymology? An etymology is simply history or origin of a word. Or if you like, the story behind a word. Words have interesting etymologies, they have interesting history behind them, they have interesting stories behind them. And if you know those etymologies of the words, sometimes it makes it easier to remember what the words actually mean. Now the reason why I wanted to start out with the word etymology today is because the next word that we're going to learn, actually it's not a word, it's a phrase, which will have two meanings. Sometimes, not always, sometimes, some words have two meanings. They have literal meaning and then they have metaphorical meaning. So, knowing the literal meaning is fine and dandy, or knowing or vice versa. If you know the metaphorical meaning, that's great, but you need to know both. You should know both. And then the real question is, how does this word that means something literally has come to mean something else metaphorically? For example, let me give you a simple example, which I will cover in the future. I'm going to put it here. And when I put oh boy. I was about to use a word in my sentence, but then I thought I should put that on the blackboard too. When I put words here, impromptu, which means without pre-planning it, without having thought about it before, unpremeditated, these are just coming out of nowhere. If something is premeditated means plan ahead of time. Impromptu means something that is done on the spur of moment. And when that happens, when I put these words impromptu, which is where this word came to my mind, which is where this word came to my mind. Let me finish my sentence. It's been going on. When I put these words on the margin impromptu, most of the time I shouldn't say most of the time, but there are going to be occasions where I will not know how to spell them. So don't go by this spelling. I'm not sure about it. I'm not 100% sure about whether they're spelled correctly, But when the time comes and when we learn them properly, which is why I put them on the side here, because I'm going to make a note of it soon, before I raise the blackboard, and we'll learn these words in the future. Where was I going with this thing? For example, pendemonium. Let's talk about this. This is an interesting word, pendemonium. What does that word mean? And when you ask somebody, what does this word mean? Most people will know what this word means metaphorically. Pendemonium simply means out of control situation, a chaos, an unruly situation is a pendemonium. Just completely out of control. It's a chaos, it's a mayhem, it's a brawl, whatever you want to call it. But what does the word mean literally? You see, it has two meanings, literal meaning and metaphorical meaning. Actually, that I just realized that it does not have much to do with etymology, but anyway. Pendemonium is made up of two parts. It has prefix pen, which means all, And the second part, it should be DE, I think. Second part, demonium, is where the English word demons come from. Demon. So pandemonium literally means all demons. And what would you expect if you had a room full of all demons? Well, it would be an out of control situation. It would be a chaos. It will be a brawl. It will be a mayhem. It will be just an unruly situation. An unruly situation is what a pandemonium means metaphorically. But literally, pandemonium means all demon. So what I just described to you, all of those things, is the story of the word. And that story of the word is called etymology. So the next word that I'm going to talk about actually is another word, as I said, it's a phrase. Will make it easier for you to remember what it means if you understand the etymology of the word. But I could not talk about etymology of the word without actually first learning what etymology actually means. So we have done that. That's what etymology is. It's the history of the word. It's the story behind the word. So now let's learn what we actually want to learn. I need to erase all of these things. So here we go. This word that I put here is sort of a strange word because I wanted to make it the same synonym as this one. That's why it has a prefix of un. But usually we just see this word as premeditated. Premeditated, because with the pre and the un, they sort of cancel each other out. So if you take out this part, it will become meditated, which means having thought of ahead of time. That's what meditate means. Meditation has a very strict meaning that people think of as a meditation. You sit down and you meditate, but loosely speaking, meditate simply means to think. So premeditated means to have thought about it, to have thought about something ahead of time, as in premeditated murder, as opposed to killing somebody by accident, which is what impromptu is. Impromptu is something that you do without planning ahead of time. So whenever these words crop up in my speech, since they're coming impromptu, I do not know whether or not they're spelled correctly. Anyway, enough of that discussion. The phrase that I want to talk about is carte blanche. This is how you pronounce it. Carte blanche. It's a French expression, but sometimes some words from other languages seep into English language. English language has many words from French, obviously. 60% of the words in English language have Latin origin, French and Italian and all that. And it has many words from other languages. And sometimes we just borrow the word just the way it is from foreign languages, and it becomes part of the vocabulary, working vocabulary, even though it's French. But it has become part of the English language. And if you were speaking English to somebody, and if you were to use carte blanche, it's a perfectly acceptable speech. Nobody's going to accuse you of speaking French. Don't worry about it. What does it mean, carte blanche? Let's first write down what the word means metaphorically, and then we'll learn what it means literally, and then we'll try to understand the connection between the two. Carte blanche means unconditional and unrestricted this is a U. Unconditional and unrestricted authority to do whatever person wishes. So if you give somebody a carte blanche, what you're telling them is that you have unconditional and unrestricted authority to do whatever it is that you want to do. It means to give somebody an absolute authority to do whatever it is that they want to do. That's what it means metaphorically. What does this expression mean literally? Well, the first part, card, simply means document or a piece of paper. And blanche comes from blanc, but it's blanche here because it's a feminine, which simply means white. White as in blank piece of paper. It is white because nothing has been written on it. So now the million-dollar question is, what in the world this meaning of these two words, white piece of paper, a white document, a blank document that is, how is it that something that means a blank document has come to mean to give somebody an absolute authority to do whatever they want? And that has to do with the etymology of the words, etymology of this expression. So let's talk about it. You see, what's going on here is that back in the old days, when two armies fought, when the two cities fought, of course one would be the winner, the other would be the loser, and the winner expected the losing party, the losing army or the losing emperor or losing prince or whatever it was, to give them an absolute surrender, an unconditional surrender. And the question was, how was that unconditional surrender rendered? How was it given? What used to happen was that the person who is the losing party would be given a blank piece of paper, an absolute blank piece of paper, there is nothing on it, and they would be expected to put their signature on it. And the winner, the victor, would write down on that blank piece of paper with the other person's signature on it, whatever it is that the person wants to write. And the other person does not even get to see it, what is written on it. And hence, you're giving this person an absolute authority to do whatever they wishes to do, whatever it is that they wish to do. Whatever it is that they wish to do. And hence, carte blanche. To give somebody a carte blanche, the colloquial expression would be to give somebody a blank check. Blank check does not mean that it's completely blank, it's got your signature on it, but then person can write whatever it is that they want to write on it. The same thing is here, except you're not giving a blank check, you're giving a blank document with your signature on it, carte blanche. And by doing so, you're giving the other person the authority to do whatever it is that they wish to do to you. Do you understand? Let's go on then. Enough of that. I want to talk about two more words. The words are let's learn the difference between, this is between, this is because, this is with, this is without. Again, between, because, with, without. Let's learn the difference between these two words. Discrete and discrete. Notice the difference in the pronunciation. Discrete and discrete. Notice something? One more time. Discrete and discrete. That's right. There is no difference. There is absolutely no difference in the pronunciation. Only thing that you do is you take this E from here, the penultimate E, I shouldn't have said penultimate E. Penultimate E actually would be, actually there is only two E here. What I meant is that penultimate letter. Penultimate means second to the last. We'll learn that in the future. You take the second to the last letter, the penultimate letter, and just move it to the end. This E becomes here and becomes an entirely different word, even though they have the same exact pronunciation. Let's learn the difference, shall we? Most people do not know the difference between these two words. Let's start with the Let's start with this one first. Well, the pronunciation doesn't matter because they have the same pronunciation. So I'm going to put the pronunciation up here. Discrete. And the exact same pronunciation is for this guy. No difference. When you spell like this, with two E's together, discrete, it's an adjective. Actually, it's an adjective in both cases. But here, it means to be careful in one's speech or behavior, or to be prudent, or it also means to be modest in one's behavior. But the most common meaning that people use is the first one, which simply means to be careful in what one says, to be careful in how one acts. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a simple example to make you understand what it means to be discreet. For example, if you happen to see somebody, some guy with a lady somewhere who happens not to be his wife, he might approach you, your colleague or whatever it is, your co-worker, he might approach you and he might simply say to you, I trust that you will be discreet. I trust that you will be discreet. In other words, I hope that you're not going to go around flapping your gums, that you will not tell anybody what you just saw. That's what it means to be discreet, to be careful in one's speech, to be careful as to what one says, to be careful in how one behaves. And that is called, and that is known, that kind of behavior is a discreet behavior, a prudent behavior, a modest behavior in that sense. Let's learn the second word. The noun, let's first learn the noun of this word. I need the room again, so I'm going to erase most of this part here because I need the room. Noun of discrete, the noun of this word discrete is, oh, did I misspell it? Yes, I did. You see, that's why it's important to pay attention here. It only has one E. As I looked at it, it looked weird to me. I never seen discretion with two in it. See, the English language is very tricky. It's a very annoying language. It has no rhythm or rhyme to it. It only has one E, discretion. So I have to bring everything closer. Discretion, which is a noun, which means to be discreet. If you are exercising discretion, which is a fancy way of saying that if you're being discreet, you are showing discretion. To be careful. You're being careful in one's behavior or speech. But, and finally, to be here's a good one to learn. Circumspect. I'm going to put it here on the list. Circumspect. We'll learn it in the future. What does it mean, circumspect? Well, circumspect is made up of two parts here. Here's the prefix and here's the suffix. Prefix, something that comes in the beginning. Circum comes from the word circumference. So literally what this word means is that all around, that's what this first part means. Circum, it means all around. And spect is where the words spectators, spectacles, it just means to see, to watch. So circumspect literally means to look all around you, to have view of all, to be cognizant of everything that is going on around you, to be aware of everything that is going on around you. That's what the word means literally. Metaphorically, it simply means to be careful. Circumspect simply means to be careful, because you're looking around everywhere around you. Circumspect, you see, looking all the way around. And if you're looking all the way around, if you're being careful, you're showing discretion. You're being careful in your speech, you're being careful in your behavior, you're being discreet. It also means, I'm going to erase all of this part, as a noun of this word, it also means if you give somebody a discretion, what it means is that it also means to give someone authority or freedom to act as they see fit. Not quite as open-ended and as wide an authority as carte blanche, which is just an absolute authority to do whatever they want in all aspects of everything. Here you may give them a discretion. For example, if somebody asks you, well, how much should I spend for this company's gathering that is coming up, the company's Christmas party that is coming up, what should I spend on it? What should be the budget for it? Is it $3,000? Is it $5,000? You're asking your boss, so how much should I spend on it? And he or she might tell you, well, I'll leave it up to your discretion, which means they're leaving it up to you to decide how wild or how conservative you want to be. You must have heard of discretionary spending, when politicians are deciding how much to spend, the budget and so forth. They talk about discretionary spending as opposed to some spending which are required by law. There is no choice. You have to spend a certain amount of money for people who are old. You have to spend a certain amount of money for Social Security, whatever it is. And then there are a lot of other spending that the government has the freedom to choose whether or not to spend or how much to spend. Those kind of spending is called discretionary spending. A family also has a discretionary spending and necessary spending. For example, your rent is not a discretionary spending. Once you are in a certain apartment, you have to spend that much money. But how much I spend on a meal when I go out to eat, that's discretionary spending. How much I spend to buy a toy, that's a discretionary spending. Because it's up to me to decide at that time as to what goes on. And that is called discretion. Let's learn the second word here. Enough of this thing. This is an interesting word because it is also used, well, I'm not going to bother writing the pronunciation, it's already here, it's the same pronunciation as that. Discrete, also an adjective right here. And the same pronunciation, it means, with the T at the end, means not continuous. Oh, it doesn't look like I spell it correctly. Continuous. Not continuous. Something that is choppy, something that is not continuous, something that comes in bits and pieces, as opposed to continuous, is called discrete. In mathematics, we talk about discrete functions. Discrete function, as opposed to continuous function. For example, here is my x and my y. A continuous function might be something like this. This is a continuous function, as you can see. The value of y changes with the value of x, but the function is continuous. It's not choppy, there are no breaks. Let's look at a discrete function. When x is 1, well, we don't have to put numbers here. There you go. That's a discrete function. And then finally, we may have it here. So what you're saying is that when the value of x is between 0 and 1, y is 0. When the value of x is between 1 and 2, the y is 1. When x is between 2 and 3, y takes a value of 2. And then finally, when x is between 3 and 4, y takes a value of 3, and so on and so forth. A function such as this one is called a discrete function. A discrete function, not because this function is very careful as to what it says or how it behaves. No, that is that one. Keep the two separate. Because even though you may have a spell check, which is the curse of the spell check, because the spell check is stupid. It cannot tell you from the context which word to employ. So if you meant to use this word, or if you meant to use this word in the context that you're writing, and you end up misspelling it, the spell check is not going to correct it. So do not go around using this spelling to describe this as a discrete function. This function is not very discrete. For all you know, it may go around flapping its gums all over the world. And similarly, to ask somebody to be discrete does not mean that you want them to break into bits and pieces. Do you understand? Those are two different words. Same pronunciation, but two different words, two different meaning, nothing to do with each other at all. And that's all I'm going to do today. That's it. Again, I hope that little by little you will learn the intricacy of the language. Simply learning the words here and there superficially is not enough. You must try to master them, so that when you see them in the writing, so that you see them, so that you can employ them in your writing, so that when you see them in your reading, you are able to appreciate the differences and pick up the nuances of the word. That's the idea. Do you understand? Well, I hope you found it helpful. If you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, I tutor over the internet via Skype. I also do tutoring in person for all of these exams that you see there, for the GRE, the GMAT, the SAT, and the TOEFL. Go to my website there, any of these websites there, and send me an email. Or you can always go to keshwaniprep.com and send me an email from there. Alright? I hope this was helpful to you. I'll see you tomorrow on day 9. Thanks.